Goldman Sachs analysts and top executives from across the technology, media, and telecom landscape are gathered in San Francisco for the company's annual Communicopia and Technology Conference. Yahoo Finance's executive editor Brian Sozzi spoke with Lyft CEO David Risher on what's driving the ride-sharing industry forward. While Lyft and Uber have been considered rivals for many years, Risher considers consumers' obsession with Netflix and, quote, staying at home eating pizza a much bigger threat to Lyft's success. Risher also breaks down the important lessons he learned from his former boss, Jeff Bezos, and why a business is only as strong as its leader.
I am a customer-obsessed person. I've worked at Amazon for many years. I drank all the Amazon Jeff Bezos Kool-Aid about how the best businesses are the ones that fundamentally meet customers' needs and just blow people away. And so for me, I think that the Uber-Lyft dynamic over the last couple of years has been more a competitive dynamic than a customer-focused dynamic. And so what got me really excited about joining up with Lyft is saying, let's really turn this into a customer-focused thing. Let's turn it into being obsessed by our riders, obsessed by our drivers, and you can see the results.
Is the battle about taking it back to Uber, or is it about taking it back internally, getting that vibe back that Lyft was always known for?
Well, I'd say it's about taking it to customers. I really think that. I mean, look, we are social beings. We want to get out of our house. But at the end of the day, we also spend a huge amount of time on our screens. So it's funny you think of it this way, but part of Lyft's reason for being is we're sort of the interface between your phone and the real world. So that's really what it's all about. And then the excitement internally of trying to build cool products and services for customers, for riders and drivers is fun.
When you're saying that you're focused on the consumer and you want to be consumer obsessed, what does that mean for the Lyft platform? What's not on there that you see could be on there next year?
Well, let me start with kind of the basics, right? Because when we started 4 months ago, our prices weren't quite in line with where the market needed them to be. So now we've reset our pricing to be competitive with where Uber is. Lower prices than we used to have, for sure. Same with driver pay. We've increased driver pay to be in line with where the market is, and that's really important. Drivers make billions of dollars on our platform, and we need to pay them well. So full stop. So that's where it starts. Then it's about picking you up on time and making sure you've got a good experience every time. And I hope every single day we do that, and I hope we're doing it better every day than we did the day before. And then you start to get into the more differentiated pieces. So let me give you an example. Everyone likes a good deal sometimes, right? We all feel like at some point we want a deal. And so we have an option called Wait and Save, which allows you to basically say, I'm willing to wait another 5 or 10 minutes, and I'll get a cheaper price. And something like 30% of our riders every single day take us up on that option. So the reason I point that out is because I think it's a really good option for people who want to save a couple bucks. By the way, I think it's better than Uber's shared ride or pooled ride option. Be a little bit competitive on that one. And I think it's an example of how, if you really focus on what customers want, you can start to build back to work products, or maybe back to school products, or all sorts of other things that'll really meet the customers where they are.
Are you priced below Uber? What does your data show?
So our strategy is to make price shopping kind of a waste of time, if I can say it that way.
Does it bother you when Uber has these earnings calls and they say they're not thinking about Lyft? Should they be thinking about Lyft?
No, I don't want them thinking about Lyft. I want them thinking about their own problems. They got all sorts of stuff. They, their CEO recently said, I wake up every morning thinking how much Uber sucks, and I'm like, that's cool. We agree on that. So anyway, I'm just kidding you. Look, my real focus is I want to focus on our customers. And sometimes what I say is, I don't think our big competition is Uber. I think our competition is staying at home, watching Netflix and eating pizza. I mean, as much as fun as that is, I guarantee it's more fun to go out with a friend.
When I talk to John Zimmer, I've talked to him many times through the years. He pitched this vision to us about Lyft being everything to everybody, shipping this, doing that. Is that your vision?
No. And I think this is an area where John and I 100% agree. In fact, I know it is. But I think, in retrospect, he might say that a little bit differently. And here's what I mean. The best companies are the ones, as we've said before, that really focus in and say, what can we do for our customers that really is differentiated? And it's hard to differentiate on everything. It really is. And so our focus is on rideshare, providing a great experience every single day. For a time, I think particularly as COVID came, there was a real feeling of like, oh my God, the rideshare business, is going away because of COVID or whatever it is, and so let's try a bunch of other things. But we're coming out of COVID and we're saying, guess what? People still want to go to work, they still want to go to school, they still want to get together with their friends and all the rest, so we're really going to focus on that way.
Your tenure started off, you may have to make some tough decisions, notably on staff, to lay off a good portion of the staff. Are you confident you have gotten to the cost structure that you want to get to?
Yes. Yes. So I appreciate you're saying it was hard. It was really hard. Nobody likes it. Of course, employees least of all. Let's be very clear. We had to do it. And the reason we had to do it is because in order to offer good prices, you have to have a cost structure that makes sense. And to your earlier question, if your goal for a while is to sort of try to do everything, you tend to grow your costs. Whereas if your goal is to try to do one thing really well, you have to shrink your costs. So we shrank our costs. That did mean we had to lay off some employees, but we're at a state now where we can innovate on behalf of customers, we can keep the business moving forward, growing financially healthily, and not have to do anything crazy with the costs.
And for those not really familiar with your plant, is the bikes business still part of Lyft? Do you want it to be part of Lyft?
Yeah. So I'm glad you asked about bikes. Let me just kind of level set for a second. Just in New York City, so Lyft runs bike systems across the United States in a bunch of cities, in Chicago, in New York, in DC, San Francisco, all across the United States. And if you've been on one of those bikes recently, particularly in an e-bike, I hope your experience has been great. I mean, once people start e-bikes, they tend to really fall in love with them. It's a great way to get across the city. In New York alone, we give about 130,000 rides a day. A day. That's as many as in LA. That's as many subway rides as LA does in a day. So I mean, it's a big part of a transportation network now. So for our riders, it's super important. It gets them from point A to point B, often faster than a car, frankly, if it's in New York City. But it's also a capital-intensive business for us. And so we're trying to figure out a way to partner with other organizations that specialize in city infrastructure in a way that allows them to take some of the cost of capital, from us effectively, and allow us to just offer it to our riders without it being such an expense for us.
Within the data you are able to receive, what's the health of consumers? Do you see consumers still spending at the clip they were? Are they taking the same amount of rides? What do your users look like?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I know there's a little data out there about some retail softness or and concern about student loans and so forth. We're not seeing any of that. On the driver's side, we see really healthy supply, and on the rider side, summer travel was as strong as it's ever been, stronger actually. Back to work is already feeling like it's off to a really strong start, and same with back to school. So we're not really seeing any softness.
Lastly, before we let you go, not a lot of folks can say they were the 37th employee of Amazon. I mean, that's some OG stuff. What did you learn from those early days, and how are you applying it to Lyft?
The single biggest thing really was that focus on the customer. And it's a bit of a cliche now, in part because Jeff Bezos has sort of made it a cliche. Frankly, I'm trying to take it up to the next level at Lyft. One of the things that I would like 3 years from now, 5 years from now, is that Lyft has redefined what it's like to be a customer-obsessed organization. And one of the things I tell our employees sometimes is, if we're ever so unlucky that you go off and get another job, I hope that other company is just thrilled to get you because they know how customer-obsessed you're going to be. That's really what I learned from Jeff and from Amazon.